Hi, I'm Patrick Barry, Tom's son. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person today, but I will be at Colburn Park tomorrow cheering on St. Norbert's and running myself, albeit quite a bit slower than most of you, probably all of you. I'll be honest, when I put pen to page these last few days, what came out wasn't at all what I had anticipated, and it even, at least initially, caught me by surprise. The more I looked it over, the more I realized that what I had down was exactly what I wanted and maybe even needed to share. So thanks in advance for listening. I hope you find in it something worthwhile. As you may know, Tom was 35 when he died of a heart attack after finishing a 12K race in Green Bay. It was the first week of October 1990. I was in third grade, just 8 years old. In the immediate years after he died, I thought I saw him a number of times. A tall, lean, dark-haired man seen from just the right angle in the grocery store or in a passing car would send a shock of impossible possibility through me. The man would turn around and I'd see him as just that, a man and not my father, and my hope would recede even quicker than it came. I was left feeling silly and sad, empty. It's easy to think that the stuff of dreams or magic isn't for this earth, and yet at a young age it was easier to believe, to want to believe that it was. But I was duped. I've had dozens of dreams over the decades in which my father appeared, living as if nothing had happened to him and all was well in the world. In these dreams, I am thrilled, but unable to ask him how it was possible that he was there before me, out of the fear, the knowledge that it wasn't. I'd soon wake to find it so, and that truth, that burden, would be more than enough to manage. I spent the better part of 10 years, from 8 till about 18, building a fortress around myself and seeking refuge behind walls of anger and impenetrable grief. The grief, which I was too young, too closed off to recognize as such, would unnoticeably build, and I'd inevitably implode, explode. I shut people out, important people, loved ones and friends. I told them, and sometimes literally, I'm sure, to go away. Most of them didn't leave. They waited until I emerged, which I eventually did. I'm grateful to them for that. And sometimes, even today, I'll falter and I'll say, with a look or by the tone in my voice, leave me alone. Let me hide, hole up. I'm not proud to say it, but it's the truth. When I was a sophomore in college, perhaps the same age as some of you are now, I was driving home for this very race and was overcome with such anxiety that I had to pull over at a rest stop only 30 minutes from Minneapolis, where I was in college, and had to be calmed down over the phone by my mother and a Bellin hospital nurse. I was convinced I was having a heart attack and would die having lived barely beyond half my father's age. It wasn't the first incident like that, and it wouldn't be the last. By my logic at the time, though I'm not so sure now, I was half as healthy, half as put together, half as anything as my father was at any point in his life. It wasn't true, but I didn't know that then. All I knew was his mythic proportions, which I couldn't fill. Why do I tell you all this? Why not tell you of my father, Tom Barry, the man for whom tomorrow's race is named? Why not tell you something about his life and how we shouldn't mourn his loss, but instead celebrate his life and his impact on others? Why not tell you of Tom Barry, the family man, husband, son, father, the friend, the teacher, the sportsman, the fisherman, the gardener, the goofball, the runner, the coach. It's true, he was all of those things. And there are plenty of stories. Some I remember firsthand, and many, many more I've been told, in which he plays these roles, lives up to the titles. Too many to count, and enough to, in a way, bring him back, to call him forth from the great beyond so that he and we live in those stories. They're good stories, too, and I welcome their telling. What I've told you, am telling you, is, in a way, more my own story, or part of it. It's heavy stuff, I realize, and all the more heavy for being real. But it's only part of the story. There are other, better parts. Feeling the presence of my father on a run, especially in college, when I really needed him summoned. Or, more recently, feeling his presence at my wedding. I have 2 sons of my own now, and these days I find myself trying to father them as I remember he did me. Strangely enough, when I'm trying the least, when I'm unconsciously being simply me, is when someone else will tell me I remind them of him. I'm now 32, 3 years shy of his age when he died. And while I'm both scared and saddened by the prospect of outliving my father, not sure whether to celebrate the fact, fear it, or ignore it altogether, I recognize it's just that, a fact, the crossing of an invisible threshold that means plenty, but only has as much power as I give it. It's not what matters most. True, the story of my father's death, as any death, doesn't begin well. But tragic beginnings don't have to lead to tragic endings. Tragedy and trauma is a vast terrain, and it's liable to consume us if we allow it to. But it doesn't have to. Sadness costs too much. Each of us has, will have, our personal tragedies, our own suffering. We don't have to be defined by it, whatever cause it's the result of, or whatever form it takes. When we will ourselves to triumph, we collapse the fortress, knock down the walls. I can't tell you the last time I thought I saw my father, but I'm starting to see more of him when I look in the mirror, or when I look at a photo of him, and the photo itself, serves as the mirror. Every once in a great while, maybe once every few years, I still have dreams about him, dreams in which he's very much alive. I welcome them, and I no longer think to ask how it came to be, how in them he's alive. It just is. And it's been a long time since I've sensed his presence while running, but that doesn't mean he's not there. I believe he is. I offer this to all of you because I want to believe in good endings. I have to. I think we have to. The alternative doesn't offer much. Good endings are possible if we will them so, if we commit ourselves to making them so for ourselves and one another. It's not easy work, but it's worthwhile work. Look around. I suspect there's already an awful lot of proof of that in the very room you're in now. May it be so for you and for us all. And as for tomorrow morning, well, fast may you run. See you all then. Thanks.